Invoice factoring is like another form of merchant cash advance. This is essentially what you're doing is instead of doing it from like the sales that you make online, you're doing it from the invoices that you have. And so I have a client in my program. He's been living off of this for some time. From what he tells me, they treat him right. So he's in trucking. And so from the invoices that he's pretty much going to be clearing, he sells that out to essentially a third party, which is a factoring company. And then what they do is they'll give him pretty much a front. And so they'll front him because he's been with them for some time, 90%. And then of that 90%, the other pretty much 10% gets paid out. So I'll show you what I mean, because you have to see it in real time. And so the way that it works is, let's say that you get an invoice from a customer, right? So for some of us that are service-based businesses, or if you have trucking and you get paid like off of an invoice type of thing, you then submit that invoice. So let's say for $1,000 over to that third-party company that's, going to do the invoice factoring for you. They're then going to give you 80 to 90% as an advance. So let's say of $1,000, working with round numbers, they're going to give you $800 back to you. Here, this is for you, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, $800. The invoice is then going to get paid. The amount owed is going to get paid from your customer over to that third-party company. Once that total is collected, they'll then release whatever's owed on it. So let's say if you had, let's say it was 90% that they gave you. Actually, let's still work with the 80%. The $800, once that invoice is completely met, you're still owed 20%. But typically they'll shave off 3 to let's say 5% off of the total amount of that invoice. So let's say a 5% fee off of the 1,000, you paid, what is that, Rad? $50. Again, working with round numbers. That would be essentially how invoice factoring would work. Now, it doesn't seem like it's, it doesn't seem like it's bad on the surface, but sometimes it comes with other fees attached to it. Sometimes it's 10%, sometimes it's 10%, sometimes it's 15%. I'm just working off of 5% because it's easy math. So 10% off of $1,000 invoice is $100. 10% off of 1,000, off of 10,000 is $1,000. Some of this stuff adds up really quickly. And again, that's not including some of the more processing fees that they have. That's just a fee on the invoice. They also have processing fees on the back end. And so I just want to give you guys, again, different funding options. But in my opinion, it's not the way that I would want you to completely run your business. It's just something that, again, these are band-aids that you want to pay attention to. Now, I do have some different funding options for you guys. So if your business is listed on here, then most likely... What was that?
Guys, we started at 1 o'clock, right? This is 4.5 hours. It's almost 5 hours, right? This man's been presenting for 5 hours. We started at sharp. We started at 1 sharp, right? It's 6 o'clock in the morning here in Bali. Like, he's still going. Keep going, man.
So e-commerce, trucking, equipment financing, real estate investing, agency, so consulting, media, marketing. So that would be more of like what I'm involved in. We got business services, general contractors. So think construction, retail, plumbing, electric, like whatever is on there. I'm going to give you guys a few different alternatives. But again, keep in mind with some of these, some of the payments are going to be depending on your business. So I know this question is going to come up. Irv, how are the payments set up? It's going to be different from what we saw at the banks. So usually with traditional banks, those payments are monthly schedules, right? So whatever I draw from the business line of credit, I just pay an interest on whatever I draw from it. And then that payment isn't due until the following month. So it's almost like a credit card. That's how I want you to think about it. With some of these options that I'm going to give you, some of these are going to be daily, weekly, and monthly payments that need to be made. So wanted to first preface that before we go into it, because I believe, in full transparency. But I also wanted to give you guys some alternative financing that you guys can look into. The second part of that, or like part 2B, is that it's also going to depend off of where your credit is and where your cash flow is for your business and how strong your business establishment is. So if you're wondering, well, what's it going to be for me? I'm not the underwriter. And so you're going to have to file and submit the application in order for you to actually know what it's going to be. But I'm going to give you baselines like I've been giving you pretty much all night. So let's get to work. Lens Park. So business lines of credit, business terms.
Ready to get to work? Well, let's get to work in the chat. We're still working. We still working. You ready?
Bro, you thought I was gonna bring you 50 slides
bro, listen, every week you surprise me, bro. But listen, this right here, I thought last week was your best. Dude, I'm gonna challenge you next week. We're gonna top this.
That can be done, bro. I'm with it.
Somehow we're gonna top
Some
this.
way, somehow, bro. It's like dropping like a New York Times bestseller, bro. Some way, somehow, we're gonna do it.
We're gonna do it, bro.
Bro, Lens Park, for those of us that are still in the room, all 75 of us. If you're catching the recording, pay close attention to this. Business lines of credit, business term loans up to 150K. Now, again, the scope that I want you to look at it is these are more the fintech side. So again, full disclaimer on there. 6+ months in business is essentially where you want to be. 15K in monthly revenue. They're going to ask for basic things like bank statements. Now, bad credit is okay. The reason why bad credit is okay, because if you're looking at a business whose average monthly revenue is 15K, they're pumping about 150 to 170 a year. So they're doing pretty good in business, especially if they're above 6 months in business as well. Got to have a business bank account set up. No more than 5 insufficient fund days in any month. Bank rating is key. That's why these classes over the last couple of weeks all stacked on each other. So if you have more than 5 insufficient fund days, that means that your account's obviously gone into negative or overdraft. That's going to be a no-no. If you have more than 5 of those in a month, it's a no-go with this one. They offer equipment financing, working capital loans, construction, commercial real estate loans. Keep it moving. Capitus, business term loans with these guys. So your business needs to have been established for at least 2 years, 625 on the FICO, 250 average for annual revenue. Again, we're playing around with some of the bigger stuff, which is why I wanted to give this, give some of these different funding options for you guys, because some of us carry some deeper pockets, right? We messed around with some of the stated doc stuff. Some of this stuff is we got to show a little bit of revenue coming in, right? So US-based businesses that operates for profit. So if you're a church, if you run maybe a daycare that's maybe for the community, this might not be the option for you. Equipment financing. So minimum requirements is $150,000 a year in revenue, 675 on the FICO, 3 years in business. And if you only have 1 year in business, then you can kind of bypass this section right here, but look where your credit needs to be. So, it's a trade-off, like anything else we've been talking about today. That's what Capitus. Capitus continue. Healthcare financing. I got a couple med spa people in my program. I don't know if you guys have them too. Some of that stuff lands within like the healthcare space, chiropractors, things like that. And so sometimes that falls a little bit more into the higher risk category. And so it's cool because they cover it. So minimum FICO, at least a 600, 250 on the average revenue or yearly revenue license. So it's going to be a healthcare or medical practitioner, right? So for those of us that are in that medical space, this might be for you. Your practice must be at least 6 months or older. Rad, did you know about this one?
I didn't know about this, bro. I had no clue about this. This is big boy, big girl funny. ECOM is.
This is real, like I'm gonna say this is real shit right here, because
this is Corey shit. This is Corey shit right here.
Your practice got to be in place. This isn't like, oh well, let me put this. No, they're gonna ask you for, hey, name of the practice, did you pass the exam, where did you grad? Like they're gonna ask for all of it, so you can't play around with stuff like this.
Yeah.
So, anyways, business line of credit, 650 on personal credit score. You got to be established. You must have established business credit. So let's define that. At least an 80 on the Paydex score, at least an 80 on the Experian and Teller score. 2+ years in business, 180K average annual revenue.